Hi, this is The Recovering Perfectionist. I'm Claire Barton and you're in the right place at the right time. If you're starting to feel like some of your perfectionism is really getting in the way of you moving forward, getting started or finishing anything, this is absolutely the right show for you. This is rehab for your perfectionism, baby, so grab yourself a glass of wine or a cuppa and let's get stuck into it. I'm here with the lovely Elle Roberts, who is a business mentor and creativity coach and also the founder of Artful Business Conference. Hey, Elle.
Hey, Claire. Thank you for having me.
So awesome to have you on here. I guess I'll tell everyone a little bit about how we know each other and then I'll hand over to you to elaborate on all the other bits and pieces that you do. So I guess when I first kind of started dipping my toe in the online business world, you were definitely one of the first kind of standout leaders in there for me. And I was like, oh, that's possible. Oh, that's possible. Oh, that's possible too. So you and a couple of other like very much leaders in that kind of world and very aspirational. So I've definitely been following you for quite a while now. And it's awesome to have you on here. We've done a little bit of work together, and I know that I think one of the first things that we probably didn't do together, but I definitely was following hot in your footsteps was your beautiful selfie challenge, which I did probably a year ago before I even really was comfortable whatsoever with selfies. And I think you definitely were very pivotal in helping me get a little bit more visual, online and present and that sort of thing, and okay with awesome. Myself. So so that's awesome. So I might hand over to you and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, because I know it's vast and varied and there's a lot of stuff that you do. You can probably articulate it a lot better than I can.
Oh, well, thank you so much for such a gorgeous intro. That's really amazing. So I've been a business coach and mentor now for about 7 years, and I'm particularly passionate about helping women nail their online presence and stand out themselves as leaders and authority figures in their industry by building a presence. And, you know, I'm really passionate about personal branding. I'm a big fan of the selfie and you were actually one of the people that were sort of early in that exploration for me when it came to selfies and how much was too much and all that sort of stuff. Because I remember we went to an event together in Brisbane, and I walked in the room and yourself and another lady were like, "Elle's here!" And I had no idea who you were. Yay. And I felt terrible that you knew me and I didn't know you. And it was like we got into a discussion about it, and you said, "Well, I've seen your face so often. Of course I know who you are." And I felt like a total celebrity superstar, and it was just because I plastered my own photo all over the internet. And then it was like, I want that for everyone else too. Right. I don't want Claire to know me. I want Claire to know me and me to know Claire. So I want people to get comfortable with sharing their face online, because people then do feel like they know you and it's a different level of connection. So you were part of that journey for me.
Awesome. That's great to know. Thanks. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so in terms of that, before we start talking, so we're going to talk a little bit about events today, but before we start talking about that, I think it's really interesting that whole kind of authenticity and showing up. And I know I'm not sure if you still do it, but I know when I first started following you, you also had an Instagram page that was just for selfies, and you did like 365 days of selfies. Is that still a thing? And, you know, can you tell a bit about why you think it's important to
I've tried it twice, and I've never actually got to 365 days. And I was just thinking the other day I should start again on January 1st and see if I can do it in 2017. That was really, it happened all around the same time, but that Instagram account that was just for a selfie a day was really a personal creativity challenge. I was feeling, you know, I work with creative entrepreneurs because I'm creative, and, you know, I always have been arty and crafty and like to express myself. And I had been so caught up in the business coach space that I wasn't doing anything. And Artful was coming up that year, and I had lots on my plate, and I was, you know, working with a business coach that was helping me really scale up my business. So I didn't want to create, you know, a creativity challenge for myself that meant I was going to be spending an hour a day on the sewing machine, or you know, even crochet, which I love. I was in that real hustle stage in my business, and I was really aware of that, and I was happy to be in that space. So the selfie a day challenge was a bit about self-exploration for me, and just a creative outlet for me.
Yeah, cool.
It blew me away how much it helped me understand myself, get to know myself, and just like myself a whole lot better. I wasn't expecting that outcome. But then, because I was sharing quite a lot more of those images on my business page and in the Facebook groups, just because I had so many, like was taking one every day. So when I posted in the groups, whether it was a question or an offer, I had a face to share with it, to go with that post. And it was a complete game changer for my business. That's how Katie Wyatt, who's a good friend of mine now, has, even came into my circle of influence because she noticed my face all over the internet. And, the same is true for so many clients and people that I've worked with since. Yeah, because they feel like they got to know me before they'd even had a chance to speak to me.
Awesome. I really love that. And I think one of the things I definitely got from doing that challenge was just not taking myself so freaking seriously. And I think one of the days was and it was maybe like around day 3 or 4. So you've kind of had a bit of experience and a bit of time just doing some nice photos, and you've got your makeup done and your hair done, and you're doing like the duck face and all that sort of thing. Not really, but you know what I mean. And then there was one challenge where you were taking as many stupid photos of yourself. So pull faces, look ugly, don't put your hair up, don't put your makeup on, kind of just get comfortable looking like a bit of a dick and not being so precious about it and that sort of thing. And that was a real I went out into my backyard and I just had fun. And I thought, if anyone's watching me, I must look like such an idiot. But it was just that moment where I just went, oh, actually no one cares. No one cares if I've got makeup on. No one cares if I look like a bit of an idiot or if I've got a double chin. And so if they don't care, why should I care? And just putting it out there. And I totally agree as well about if you're putting something into Facebook groups or whatever, onto social media, that having your face on there, even if it's not, if you're asking a question, you don't have to have a question asking face, or, if you're giving a tip, it doesn't have to be a pose thing, but just to have your face out there and just to be recognized, so people go, oh, there's Claire, oh, there's Claire, oh, there's Claire, oh, I like her message, I might read that post rather than just scrolling past it. It makes it so much more interesting. And I totally agree, about this, the having your photo around and having people kind of know you. And it's almost accidentally, you don't have to push that. You don't have to kind of, shout it from the rooftops, because it's just a thing that happens and people start to know who you are. And if you, sometimes I think you see things on social media and the message might be great, but if you've never seen that person, or if their profile photo is not their photo, or it's words or something completely different, you're like, nah, I'll come back to that maybe later. But if I can't see your face, I don't want to talk to you. I don't
you can't connect on the same level. I mean, and it comes down to really core human makeup. We're human beings, right? And it's one of the beautiful things about doing work with other small solo run businesses is we get to work with other human beings, not like this big brand corporation.
That's it, yeah.
And part of the value of it is, when I call your business, I'm always going to talk to Claire, or you're one-off cider. That's you're not just going to get somebody in a call center.
Yeah.
And, we are designed genetically to recognize faces and understand the differences between your nose shape and her nose shape, so that we can remember that. We just remember people's faces much easier than we remember logos and colors and things, because that's how we're designed as people, and it lets us do that. And it just was amazing to me how quickly my face became recognizable. Just because I was sharing it more often.
Yeah. So before we go on to the next bit, can you maybe give us, I know there's a challenge coming up, quick plug, I'm doing it again because I just loved it last time, so I'm definitely going to jump on it again in early December. But is there any sort of quick, when you're working with someone around this or on the challenge, is there something that often comes up that's kind of everyone's got a block around it, and a quick tip for people to kind of move through that and get okay with selfies?
There's 2 really important things that I tell everyone when we start talking about sharing your own photo on, anywhere. And the first one is, I don't share selfies because I'm in love with photos of myself. I am not as confident and as photogenic and as super like excited about photos of myself as everyone assumes I am.
Right.
Because I put my face all over the internet. People think that I just love
photos of yourself.
My photo taken. And I don't love having my photo taken. I really don't. And particularly the last few months, like coming out of a haze of 3 months of incredible morning sickness and feeling like I'm very tired, and everyone's like, oh, you're glowing, and all I can see are the bags under my eyes. And I have the same shit in my head that everyone else has in their head.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make is I don't share the selfies for me. It's not about that teenage, early 20s, I just want to be in love with myself. Or it's about my clients, and it's about letting people get to know me and connect with me. And I think when you flip it and make it about other people, it's much easier to get over that line talk. I share photos now that I wouldn't have shared a year ago because I don't think they're good enough. I don't look done enough. But it's not about me. It's about people connecting with me.
Yeah.
And then the other number one tip is definitely just practice. Like if you're not used to doing it, if you haven't shared a photo on your Facebook page or in a group ever, then don't try and go and do that, because it's really scary. And selfies, to be really honest, are quite hard to take. Like it's hard to take a good photo of yourself. So just practice a lot, and have no intention of even sharing it in the beginning. Just take lots of photos of yourself. Get used to putting the camera and turning it on you, because that alone is a really big step for people to take if they haven't been doing it.
Yeah, cool. I love it. Awesome way to start.
And then do the challenge.
And then do the challenge, of course. We'll put the links in the show notes for anyone who wants to jump on and do that. So it was really awesome. And like I said, I think I was the same beforehand. I just thought it was a very vain thing to do. I was like, well, no one really wants to see my face, and I don't want to see my face, and I feel really self-conscious, so I just won't do it. But actually, once I went through the challenge and, like you said, realized it wasn't actually about me, and it was connecting with my people and with my tribe and that sort of thing, and letting people know what I was. But that also in turn gives other people kind of this accidental permission to do it for themselves as well. So it's not just doing it for yourself. Love it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And sorry we got a little bit sidetracked, but what I'm super excited to talk to you about today, apart from all the other things, and I'm sure there'll be many more recordings in the future, but something I really wanted to talk to you about was events and organising, planning and hosting events and that sort of thing, because I know that you have done lots of that. You've got the Artful Business Conference, which is massive and coming to Brisbane next year, which I'm pretty excited about. And I understand you've done some little ones as well. And I really love how you message it and how you kind of talk about it. And I see it a lot on social media and that sort of thing. And I've got a couple of things coming up in 2017 that are much smaller than Artful Business Conference, like one day kind of things, events. And I know a lot of people are, and I think since obviously I've been in online business for about a year, kind of roughly a year and a half, 2 years, but seriously for about a year. And I feel like it's kind of gotten to the point where now I'm really craving that in-person event as well as the online. The online stuff is awesome and I love it. And it definitely suits me and that sort of a business model, but the in-person stuff is it just fills a different bucket, and I think it's really important. And I know there's a lot of people kind of in the online business world who are probably at the same point or will at some point also get to the point where they're like, oh, like the online stuff is cool, but I want to find other ways to connect with people and be able to touch their arms and their face and that sort of thing. So so maybe I'll hand over to you to sort of just talk a bit about your experience with events and where Artful came from and what other sort of events you do, and then we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, gorgeous. Well, I like personal branding for the same reason. I'm very passionate about community building around your business. And like whether it's in the online space or in the offline space, creating a tribe and making people feel like they're a part of something is a really powerful way to create loyal, engaged customers and, even an audience beyond who's going to work with you. And for me, it's not just about the sensible marketing strategies around that. It's just a much nicer way of doing business. I'm like a complete extrovert. As I get older and certainly becoming a mum, let me lean into some introverted qualities, and I do definitely love my own space and my own time. But I'm one of those people that definitely gets filled up and energized by being around other people. Mm-hmm. And I selfishly just need that in my life. So if I can create that within my business, then that for me is a beautiful blend. I was very much like what you're talking about there, in that when I fell into online business, I just loved it. Like instantly I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. There are other people out there that see the world the way that I do. Yeah. And I didn't really have that in my local networks at that time. And so I was so grateful for the online space. But then, yeah, at that sort of 18-month, 2-year mark, I was like everyone's flat. It was I wanted
cuddling.
Oh, I'm not a big cuddler, so I was okay. I've gotten better at that. Artful has made me a hugger. But I was like I want a 3-dimensional friend, and I want someone that I can like have a glass of wine with, and it's just a different level of connection. And so events have always been a pretty big part of my business since then, whether they're small workshops, whether they're just meet-up events that it might be free or might be a small fee, or the big stuff like Artful and one-day planning workshops and mastermind things. Being part of other people's events is also a really big part of my business. I love going to bigger conferences. I love going on retreats with other business women, because it just is a different level of connection and engagement when you've actually met a person in real life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I have a little confession to make. I've never been to a conference, but I've booked 2 or 3 for next year. Well, I haven't booked yours, but I'm definitely coming. I shouldn't say never. I've been to ones like in corporate land, that sort of thing, but none since I started my own business. And it was kind of something I thought like, oh, that's a lot of money. Oh, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. But then you see the hype and this beautiful connection that everyone's got who goes to these sorts of things. And I've gone to lots of little things kind of now that are like little networking and workshops and that sort of thing. And I'm the same. And I'm an introvert. So, for that to still completely fill me up. And I do, like when I go to that sort of thing, I feel in the moment, I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I love it. I love connecting. I love presenting. I love speaking at those sorts of things. But then I get home and I'm like, I'm just going to go to my cave for a few hours or a few days. And I don't talk to me between now and then.
Yeah.
But when I'm there, it can be really draining. I hate using the word draining, because I don't like how it comes across to feel like, oh, it's just so draining going to these amazing events. But I do definitely feel like I need to go and nurture my introvert for a little while afterwards. And literally just
event hangovers are a real thing.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But I think the same sort of thing. Like when you can be in the same room as people and just feed off that energy and hear other people and have that really natural conversation, and there's a joint reason, and sometimes there's even a little bit of friendly conflict, like some challenges in amongst the group, that really lights me up. Like that really, really pushes my buttons. And I think, yes, this is awesome, because I think those sorts of conversations and disagreements almost in a healthy way can be what kind of pushes you beyond the thing to innovate and to think of new ways of doing things and to think of different ways around it, or to kind of introspectively go, I need to look at that, or, whatever. And I'll just witnessing it, even if you're not a part of it, is a totally different thing. So I've started hosting these monthly Smart Chicks events up in Brisbane, which has been awesome. And some events we've had like 6 of us, some we've had 14 of us. And it's just a total game changer in terms of just having some actual physical people around. And, even if I wasn't hosting it, I'd be going to them every month, because they're just so good, in terms of who you get to meet and that sort of thing. So tell me, maybe we'll talk a bit about the big scale to start with, because I know that's Artful's coming up next year again in May in Brisbane. And while that's definitely not on the radar for me in terms of organising something so epic, because I think I'd go grey in about a week. What are some of the sort of mechanics or some of the I guess things that can kind of make it easier for you or to get started? Because I've heard your story before about where you started with Artful, and I thought it was an awesome story. So maybe even tell us about that a little bit more and kind of where it came from and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a ridiculous story. And in hindsight, you know, I love educating people and I love helping people run much more successful events from the get-go. And whether it's big or small, certainly giving yourself more time for planning, and like events are a big thing. They're not, there are so many things that are valuable about running events. They help set you apart as an expert in your industry. They help, you know, just with your credibility. People suddenly look at you differently if you're running workshops and events, particularly if you're doing it in different locations around the place. As I said, it's that community and connection. It's a different level of engagement with people, and they're just gorgeous and I love them, and they will always play a role in my business, both on the bigger scale and the smaller scale. But they're hard work. They're not like a quick fix if you're looking for some cash flow. They're not, you know, a quick fix in any form, really. They are hard work, and no matter how small they are, I think people often underestimate how much time, energy, money goes into them. They're also hard work in terms of marketing. That they're a much bigger commitment to ask people to be a part of, even if it is just a, you know, networking event for 2 hours. Like, people suddenly have to organize their kids, or they have to get across town, and they have to take 2 hours out of their day that they would otherwise be doing other things. And, you know, for solo entrepreneurs particularly, that's a really big thing to ask people. Like, just to ask for their time is really huge, because if they're at your event, then they're not working in their business. And, you know, as we're solo operators, we're really conscious of that. I certainly am very picky about the other events that I go to. I could go to an event, you know, I could go to 3 events every week, but you have to be picky and choosy about it. So they are a hard sell sometimes. So I just want people to sort of give them the credit that they're due in terms of how much work and energy is involved. But they're definitely worthwhile. And the bigger scale stuff, gosh, I'm still learning. This will be our 5th major event. We've been running for 6 years now, but we did one in 2013. We did just an online summit instead of a live event. It was all live, but it was virtual instead of in person.
Yeah.
So Brisbane will be our 5th in-person major event, and I'm just so excited. And I feel like I've pulled my big girl panties up this year, because I've got a big team helping me for the first time ever. I'm pregnant with twins, and they're due in March, and then conference is in May. So a team of people helping me was a non-negotiable this year. And so it's a different game all over again when you get people to support you and help you along the way. But planning and budget are the 2 major things that you really need to focus on. You know, Artful was just an idea, and if I had done the budget properly the first few years, I probably never would have done it. But, you know, I was just so passionate about it. I was so excited. It was literally like, I'm not a very woo-woo person, but it came to me like a vision almost. It was just like as soon as I had the idea, I instantly knew what it was going to grow into, and I knew what it would be in 10 years' time. And, you know, along that journey over the last 6 years, I have had lots of struggles and lots of stresses, and lots of times I've wanted to put the whole thing to bed, and it won't let me. I've tried to say, I'm not going to do it this year, and I can't put it away.
It's the conference that won't die.
It won't
Thank
let
God.
me. It's not done yet. So yeah, and this year I feel really differently about that. But I was really excited about, you know, like we were talking about at the beginning, I'd been in business for a while. I have a business marketing strategy background. But then when I started my own business, I still really struggled with my pricing and my marketing, because all of a sudden it was like all tangled up in my self-worth rather than just being about stats and numbers and things. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is so hard, and I didn't expect it to be, because I've got the knowledge to do this stuff. I can't imagine how women feel that are starting a business just because they have a good idea and they don't have the background that I have. Like, where is the help and support for them? And I was looking for it for myself, because I wanted someone to talk to me about marketing in a way that was going to relate to how I felt about my self-worth and my value and all of that sort of stuff that gets tangled up when you're running your own business and when you're emotionally invested in the work that you're doing. And I remember going to a small business networking conference breakfast thing. It was an educational half-day conference, I think. And the first speaker of the day, and it's still like, I still get like butterflies in my stomach when I think about it. She got up and she was talking about business planning, and she was talking about business planning like they talked to me about business planning in uni. She was talking about like the 40-page document with the SWOT analysis and the, competitor assessment and all of these different, really jargon words and lots of detail. And then she got to the financial budget stuff, and she was talking about like turnover and cash flow, and talking about $75,000 a year and $120,000 a year, and basically said, and if you're not looking at that in your first 3 years, then you're not viable and you should go back to paid employment. And I was just devastated. At the time, I was running a handmade business, and the goal of my business was to make $80 a week to bridge the gap between my Centrelink payment and the bills that were coming in every week. I was a single mum at the time, and that my business meant that I didn't have to put my son back in daycare. But I sure as shit wasn't looking at building $100,000 a year business at the time. And she just completely devaluated everything that I was about and everything that several other women in the room were about. And for me, like, I was lucky enough that I had been in the online space and had mentors in that area already. So I was confident enough to say, she's just completely out of touch, because she was talking about businesses that needed to go and get big bank loans, that needed to open a store, that needed to buy $100,000 worth of stock to start up. And I was like, no, well, this was like the era of Chris Gillibo and the $100 startup. And all I need is $80 for web hosting and $3 for a domain name, and I've got a business. And I don't need $100,000 budget to work from, and I don't need to go to the bank for finance and all of that sort of stuff. So I was really upset, but I was lucky enough that I was already had enough positive influence that it didn't make me go home and give up. It made me go home and get really angry.
Yeah. And I think that's such a I hope that it's not the message that's out there for everyone, and I know it is to a certain extent still. And it was definitely my belief, until I started listening to things like Tash Corbin and her takeoff program, that you don't even need a website to start with. If you just want, you can jump in and use Facebook groups for free. And I think it's a really sad thing. And like every time I wouldn't say every time, but often when I talk to people and they say, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I have my own business. I do business coaching and planning, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I'd love to have my own business. I've just got to save up another $5,000 or something. And I'm like, I don't want to go into the spiel and make you feel bad, because everything you think is probably not completely necessary. But I often will say, like, you don't need any money to start your business. Call me. That sort of thing. But it is like,
totally,
it's such a thing. And you sort of thought, I know I've had the same conversation about business planning, right? Like, I'm a planner. That's the thing I do. That's the thing I love. And if I could spend my entire weekday life planning and organizing things, I'd be a happy little person, which I pretty much do. So I pretty much am. But there's a business plan and there's a business plan, right? So there's, that 40-page or 140-page document that has everything laid out, and you've got to have your table of contents and, like you said, your SWOT analysis and your marketing plan, your communication plan, your budget, blah blah
your
blah.
executive summary. Like,
Yeah,
my clients get to the first page and it's like, what's your executive summary? They're, I don't know. So you just put it in the drawer and ignore it completely.
So true. And I don't know. I think some business plans like that probably have a place if you're going for a grant or if you're going for a loan or whatever. That's fine. Because those people who are giving you all that money really need to know that you're not just going to go and, spend it on pretty things and nice journals and that sort of thing. But I think if you have some sort of big picture about what you're trying to create for yourself and maybe for your clients as well, that's kind of enough. Like, that's business plan in that sense enough. Knowing roughly we're kind of going over there. You can work out all the other bits and pieces. But I think if I had done that 140-page business plan at the beginning of my business a year and a bit ago, it would have taken me so much time and cost me money in terms of lost sales because I was spending time doing that rather than actually doing my work and talking to people. But also, a year down the track, it would be completely redundant because I've gone in such different directions and I work with such different people than I thought I was going to. Or I'd be stuck doing the thing I said I was going to do a year ago because I would feel guilty that I've spent so much time and effort on creating a freaking document.
Yeah, and that's why Artful won't go away, even though I tried a few times. Because there have been times when, I've been at Artful and going through my one-page business plan template with people. And I had a lady who just about burst into tears in the middle of the workshop because we were looking at her products and her prices and her viability and all of those things, and discussing ways to make her business viable and to make what she loves doing profitable and successful. And she just looked at me and said, I wrote a business plan 19 years ago in a small business training session, and the guy told me that my business wasn't viable and it would never be viable. So she spent the last 19 years trying to build a successful business, but having this absolute belief at the bottom of it that she was fighting a losing battle because some guy in some TAFE room one day told her that it was never going to be a viable business and it was always just going to be a pretty hobby for her to have. And so, the power of
just thinking about that, it's just so it's such a waste, and I think that's probably a really big part of where my business and the message about the recovering perfectionist has come from, because I've seen the same thing and I've been guilty of the same thing where I've for some reason had a deep-seated belief that it wasn't really going to work. I'll give it a try just to say I did, but I don't actually think it's going to work. Or you see people with these amazing ideas and this amazing inspiration or aspiration or this thing that they want to create, but they've got this belief that they need more money, they need more time, they don't have the skills, all these things, which means those things are not going to be brought into the world by those people because they don't have the confidence. And it's not necessarily their fault, it's because of all this false and shitty and outdated information that's kind of completely irrelevant and completely untrue, but it just shoots your confidence, doesn't it? And it just absolutely kills
totally and
motivation to get started.
That guy wouldn't remember that conversation. But this lady has held that primarily at the forefront of her business for 2 decades.
Wow.
That it doesn't matter how hard I try. I'll give this a go, I'll give that a go, but at the end of the day, I know because he said that this isn't a viable business and I'm really just kidding myself. And so then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. She is so demotivated on so many levels, and she left that workshop just all of a sudden going, so I can just do things differently. I can just, spend a bit less or charge a bit more or work with a different audience or sell to this different market or, and suddenly she was full of and it's still hard work and it's still, you've got to put in the work and be willing to do the time and try different things to find what is viable. You can't just have an idea and suddenly you've got a successful business, granted.
Yeah.
But there's always a way. And I absolutely believe that we can all make successful careers for ourselves doing work that we love. And that's what I love so much about Artful is that I get to have those conversations with people and, then have a hug.
Well, maybe. We'll have a handshake or a high five. I don't want to get in your bubble.
The first couple of years I was really like, I don't
touch me. We don't touch.
Because for a long time I didn't hug, but Artful has taught me to hug. And now I'm a bit
Oh, that sounds really good. Well, I can't wait to see you at Artful this year. But yeah, so I guess with coming back to the event stuff, in terms of just getting started and that sort of thing, would you kind of recommend, if people are thinking about running events, that they start small and go bigger, or just go wherever the energy is kind of pulling them? And, you know, if they want to do a one-day workshop straight off the bat, that's where they go? Or like what's kind of a good way to get started?
It's the same as anything in business. Like, do the stuff that you care about, do the stuff that makes you excited and really lights you up. And do I suggest that you be a single mum with $300 in the bank account and start an international conference? No, because that was a really hard uphill battle. But at the same time, like I said, I've tried to put it to bed and it won't go. Like I'm so passionate about that and so motivated. And, you know, the game changer there has been get the right help, get the right advice, talk to the people that do know if you're out of your depth and got no idea, and just be really mindful of your planning and budgets. But in terms of, like, you know, most people looking to start events, doing a one-day workshop or just running a meetup, like, just do it, really. Get started. Figure out what, like, my top tips would be, like, figure out what your budget is and what your costs are going to be, so that you know what your, like, minimum line is. Like, you know at the very beginning when you're viable, and viable for you might not be viable for someone else.
Right.
You know, if you're running the events as a cash flow exercise in your business, then you want to be making a certain amount of money for a whole day workshop. But I often run events at a loss, particularly like if I go to Brisbane to run a workshop or Melbourne to run a workshop. There's no way at this stage I'm going to cover my flights, 3 days accommodation, room hire and catering, and then walk away with money. So at the moment, if I cover my costs or make a small loss, I'm still happy to go ahead with those events, because I know that they're a bigger part of my long-term strategy in my business. I know how valuable they are in improving my skills, and then also like directing where I go in the online space as well, because you get different levels of interaction with people. So if I'm looking at doing a new online program, I'll often run a few workshops around that stuff first, because it sort of like expedites the feedback process. And you don't have to do 6 weeks of videos and course content and then get the feedback that it's not quite hitting the mark for people. You can just spend a day in a room with people and go through quite a lot of that content and get that feedback in real time. So events don't necessarily have to make money to be viable, but know from the outset what is your, you know, bottom line in terms of what you're willing to be up against. Are you happy to do it for no profit? Are you happy to do it at a loss, or do you expect a certain number? And then from that, you know, minimum numbers are.
And I think in terms, that's a really good point, and it's a really broad thing as well, because I sort of find the same thing just talking about things like the Facebook groups that I interact in. So some of them I would never, like, I don't make sales in. People don't, you know, contact me saying, like, you know, after I've put an offer in or whatever, saying, yep, I'll take it, I'll buy, that sort of thing. But I always, I do a bit of a review kind of once a month or so about my Facebook groups and my networking things, in terms of what I'm getting from it and what I'm giving. So it doesn't necessarily be I'm getting sales from this group, but I just love the connection in there, or I love hanging out with the people, or I learn so much because there are the sorts of people in there who are really great at what they do and who are really great at the sort of things I do, and I want to learn from them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a money-making thing all the time. And like you said, the other part of it is probably, you know, when you've got that exposure to people and they're coming and seeing you, that they get it, you know, it adds to that kind of know, like, and trust kind of connection and that sort of thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, this is the thing and this is where I'm going to make the money. It's like there's so much more than that, and it's a part of the bigger picture, isn't it? It's not.
And it totally builds credibility, like, beyond the people in the room with you. Just, you know, having in my newsletter list and posting all over my Facebook page, I'm heading to Melbourne and then Brisbane and then Sydney to run a workshop. even people not in those locations go, oh, well, if people are turning up to see her in person, then maybe I should be checking out what she's doing and finding out more about how I can work with her online. And it has a really powerful draw in that way. And there are lots of, the other thing I would say, there are lots of different ways you can get involved in events. Like you said, you host a monthly Smart Chicks event. So if people are interested about trying events in their business, they can pitch themselves to speak at other things rather than organise their own events. Or like when I came to Brisbane last time, I just ran a free meetup, like just pay your own way, buy your own coffee, but I'm going to be at this place at this time and I want a bunch of you to come and hang out with me. And we had over 30 women drop in and out over that 3 hours, and many of whom I'd never really interacted with before. And then others like yourself and Chris Emery, who I've known online for a year or more, that it was like catching up with old friends, but I also these beautiful new connections with people. And then you connect with them better in the online space. Then as soon as I see posts from some of the women that were at that meetup, I'm so much more engaged and excited to see what they're doing, because I've had those conversations and we've had a laugh and we've talked about our kids and all of that stuff that happens at in-person events. So there's like the scale of how you can get involved in live events is huge. You don't have to, run something that's got a big budget and a big plan. Just run a meetup and see who turns up and share it with your network and, find out what your network is interested in. I am making a more concerted effort in the next 12 months because I'm going to have twins. So that makes sense.
Because so much more time on your hands.
To go to local events as well that are run by different business associations. I've joined the Chamber of Commerce in my local area so that I can go to the monthly chamber meetings and meet some local business people. Again, I think a lot of those people will be at that sort of like other level of business, running, shops and having that 140-page business plan document. But I'm at a stage in my business when I'm ready to engage with those people again and see what I can learn from them. I don't feel so terrified of all of that. It's like, I want to, branch out into a different network and see what innovation and things I can bring into my own business by learning from new people. So events have a really powerful way of opening up different networks to you. Yeah,
totally. I think I think the same thing. Like there's so many, we kind of know each other online, but meeting in person and just, I guess, kind of staying connected to that real people world as well just opens up so many other doors. So, totally agree. Absolutely love it. And I can't wait to see you in person again.
I know, it's always so much fun. And if people want to get into events, my biggest tip is just do it. Look at all the different ways you can do it. How can you be involved in other people's events and go to things like if you want to run your own events, go to a workshop, come to Artful, see what other people are doing in that space, because I see so many people like really focused on trying to run retreats and events that haven't been and done stuff themselves, and it's really hard to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I've been to so many conferences and things, and some of the best value that I've got from those are like, that's not ever going to happen at Artful, and I didn't like the way they did that.
Yes.
But I wouldn't have that knowledge if I hadn't made the effort to go to other people's things.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for chatting to us. I love where the conversation went, and then we talked about so many other things apart from just events. And I've really, really loved this conversation. So we'll definitely put all of your links, but if anyone wants to follow you or get in touch about anything in particular, what's the best way for them to do that?
No worries. So all of the Artful information is at the artfulbusinesscommunity.com, and all of the details about the conference and all the online stuff we're doing there as well is there. If you want to find me and my stuff, it's elleroberts.me. My website is embarrassing. I have terrible website shame at the moment because I'm halfway through updating it and it looks like a pigsty. But head over there and you'll be able to find the selfie challenge that we talked about, and then hit me up on Facebook and Instagram because I spend most of my life on social media.
Awesome. We'll put all those links in show notes as well. And I absolutely can't wait to get this one live because I think there's some really beautiful, juicy information in there for all the recovering perfectionists out there.
Thanks, Claire. It was gorgeous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.